Now, this wasn't going to be my original video for this week, but I had to go ahead and say something because this involves my favorite franchise currently, and that is Fire Emblem. Recently, Nintendo Life did an opinion piece on pretty much what the future Fire Emblem beholds, as well as some comparisons between Fire Emblem Three Houses and Fire Emblem Engage. And you can tell that is definitely very controversial in terms of the fan base of Fire Emblem being very split. So a lot of words were being said about this piece. Now I want to go ahead and chime in and give my thoughts on Fire Emblem because, like I said, Fire Emblem is currently my favorite franchise. I really love the games, but I do have some thoughts on what they said and some thoughts in general on where Fire Emblem should go. But before I get into that, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. I am trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. I am so close, so definitely every bit does count, as well as share the channel. That does help out quite a lot. Without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about some Fire Emblem. Now, one of the biggest things being talked about in that Nintendo Life piece was the sales numbers, basically the sales differences between Fire Emblem Three Houses and Fire Emblem Engage. Now, I'm on the camp that prefers Fire Emblem Engage over Fire Emblem Three Houses because there's a lot of things that Fire Emblem Engage does that makes it closer to the original feel of Fire Emblem than Three Houses. For example, the maps are just varied, right? There's a lot of differences in Fire Emblem Engage in terms of the map design that made it very fun. Of course, there are some missing things in Fire Emblem Engage that the original Fire Emblem games have, or rather the Fire Emblem Engage before the 3DS era. And that's okay. I would like to see those things come back, but I do feel that Fire Emblem Engage was the better game versus Three Houses. A lot of people like Three Houses, and every time you hear somebody complimenting Three Houses, it's really because of the story and the school life mechanic, which is basically very similar to Persona. And as a Fire Emblem fan, that's not really what I'm looking for in a Fire Emblem game. Yeah, if it's a Fire Emblem spin-off, such as Tokyo Mirage, which is a Fire Emblem spin-off there that has similar mechanics there, yeah, I get it. But as a full-on Fire Emblem fan, I don't know, I just would rush through things and like, hurry up, I want to go to the next battle. I don't want to go ahead and have to do all these things, have all these calendar events to kind of look at and so forth. Which, if you're a fan of those things, I get it, that's cool. Fire Emblem Three Houses definitely went ahead and went all in with that. You got 3 different paths to go ahead and choose from. You can play all 3 paths, therefore you enjoyed the game quite a bit. But when Engage came out and I saw everything revolving around Engage, I was actually very excited. Engage to me was definitely, well, it definitely was an anniversary title, right? You have all the past heroes, maybe some heroes are missing such as Chrom, but for the most part you had the past heroes show up and you were able to engage with them and, you know, just go ahead and play through these maps. And there's a lot of callbacks. You have their paralog quests that allows you to go ahead and boost that relationship with those Engage or those emblems that went ahead and allow you to go ahead and just level them up. Those were callbacks to their titles or whatever title they were involved, different maps that were in those titles as well. And that was actually pretty cool. I really did like that when it came to Engage. The maps, like I said, were varied and the combat was just there. We had the weapon triangle come back. Three Houses had a similar weapon triangle, but not really, because by default there was no weapon triangle, meaning anybody can attack whoever, but there were skills you can unlock that allow the weapon triangle to kind of exist, but not really, because you can still go ahead and play without that, and there was no consequences in terms of having a sword fighter fight somebody who uses a lance, or a lance fighter fight somebody that uses, you know, an axe, right? So there was a lot of things that Three Houses just made it very casual that I wasn't a fan of. Now, it is a no-brainer that yes, Three Houses sold a lot more than Engage, and yeah, that's a given, and there's data to prove that, and that is cool, but I feel that Fire Emblem should not go that direction. A lot of reasons being that the hardcore Fire Emblem fans, the ones who've been there for quite some time, I won't say since the very beginning, since when it comes to Fire Emblem games, especially here in the US, the first one we did get that was called Fire Emblem was not the first Fire Emblem game on GBA, and that was the one that involved Lynn, Hector, and Eliwood, who was Roy's dad. That was the first Fire Emblem game to come out over here. But for the most part, since then, all the way up to pre-3DS era, which would have been Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, I believe that was the last game chronologically that came out over here. Might be mistaken. It might have been Radiant Dawn. Radiant Dawn might have come out right after. I don't remember my timeline right now. But anyways, all those games leading up to those areas, the Fire Emblem game was varied, right? It was pretty cool to go ahead and have different objectives such as rout the enemy, seize the castle. There are some missions in certain games to go ahead and protect different NPCs. It might have been on the map. There was a lot of different varied things you can do in those games. One of the other things that I really liked is going ahead and starting a map and hopping onto there's an enemy there that you can actually go ahead and talk to and recruit them to your team. And that was something that was in almost every Fire Emblem game, but when it came to the 3DS era, Awakening might have had some of those. I don't remember if Fates had any of those. It's been a while since I played Fates, so I don't remember if Fates had any of those. But I know for a fact that when it came to those things in Engage as well as Three Houses, they were pretty much non-existent. When it comes to Three Houses, your team was pretty much set. The way you would recruit other members is by going ahead and giving them gifts and trying to win over their affection so they can join your team. And to me, that was kind of lame, I guess you could say. It was not really what I was looking forward to. I prefer to go ahead and start a map, go into this map, see an NPC and realize, oh wow, this NPC has a relationship with already a character that's on my team. If I bring that character over to that NPC or that enemy, they can talk and they can go ahead and join my team. That's the stuff that I really like, because then you definitely had to be very strategic on how you approach. Because if you went ahead and got too close and that NPC or that enemy went ahead and started attacking one of the units, you could kill them and then therefore they won't join your team. And those were some cool mechanics, very strategic, and I really like doing things like that. It just made you think on how to approach these maps, and they were very fun. Unfortunately, Three Houses and Engage don't both have that feature. There weren't enemies that you can go ahead and approach and recruit them on your team in either of those games, but when it came to recruiting members, the closest we really got to that feeling was definitely Fire Emblem Engage. Fire Emblem Engage, in my opinion, was definitely very close into what we got to a proper Fire Emblem game. Now, there are some things to really take notice of and to be in consideration. The casual fans for sure will like Three Houses, and there's a lot of things that Three Houses has to bring in the casual fans. But when it comes to Fire Emblem in general, I just don't think that the casual fan base is gonna like the future Fire Emblem if it goes back to Engage. And unfortunately, that might mean something because yes, it's all about sales. In the end, you do want to have some great sales numbers. I don't really want another Three Houses game. Rather, I don't want anything to be similar to any of those 3DS era games as well. Shadows of Valentia was a remake of Fire Emblem Gaiden, and I really did like Fire Emblem Gaiden. And honestly, Shadows of Valentia is probably my favorite Fire Emblem game. It's kind of hard to decide because I also love Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. But I don't think the blueprint should be off of Three Houses or those 3DS games. Now, I do understand that Awakening was the Fire Emblem game that revived the Fire Emblem community and actually got that spark for newcomers to come in and enjoy. Fire Emblem Awakening sold very well, brought back a lot of people. Anyways, going back to that piece, I don't really think that Fire Emblem should definitely go that route. There is a new game, rather a new franchise, or it might be called a franchise, we will have to wait and see, that I feel might be the true successor to what was old Fire Emblem, and that is Unicorn Overlord. I've been playing Unicorn Overlord ever since the demo, and man, I really enjoy it. The game feels like old school Fire Emblem with a twist. I mean, and when I mean it feels like it feels like it. The story is very similar. You have a blue-haired protagonist that their kingdom goes ahead and gets attacked while he's little, and he has to run off with his bodyguards, I guess you would call them, to go ahead and train up to go ahead and take their kingdom back. Doesn't that sound very similar? It should, because that is the story process of Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, which is Marth's story. Basically, the foundation of every Fire Emblem game was that, or rather the foundation of the Fire Emblem franchise was that, and this feels like Fire Emblem through and through. If you haven't played Unicorn Overlord, I highly recommend it. It is a little bit different in terms of how the tactical battles are played out. It is not grid-based like Fire Emblem, but more like Ogre Battle 64, where you have groups of characters and you go ahead and move them, similar to an RTS, You move them to different directions. The combat is played automatic, very similar to Fire Emblem, but in order to go ahead and do certain things, you really have to actually dive into your formation of your team. You can customize on what abilities are used when and how they're used when you start those battles, or rather before you start those battles. But overall, it feels very much like Fire Emblem, and I'm very much enjoying this game. And this is the field that I feel that Fire Emblem just hasn't done. Engage was the very closest because the combat and everything around it was very strategic. The emblem mechanic was very good. I do enjoy going ahead and like figuring out, should I go ahead and turn into Ike and use Great Ether, go ahead and tank these hits and go ahead and do a mass damage, or do I wait? It really kind of got my brain really thinking on when to use certain things, how to use certain things, and so forth. Pretty much towards the end, I would go ahead and just use Lyn, because we all know that Lyn is very OP, especially when it comes to battling bosses. But I just don't think that 3 houses is the answer. Now there is one last piece to that Nintendo Life opinion piece, and that is that an action RPG is the way to go. I definitely don't think that's the way to go. Especially the way action RPGs are doing recently, they're not selling as much as, say, previous action RPGs. Rather, we've seen what happens with an action RPG or when a turn-based game goes action. And Final Fantasy VII is a good example of that. Final Fantasy VII Remake did sell pretty good, right? It sold pretty well. But when it came to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it sold a lot less. There, you can argue that yes, this is a PS5 exclusive. There's half the install base on PS5 versus PS4. Yeah, you can go ahead, but we can also look back at Final Fantasy 16. There is no other installment there. Yes, it is a PS5 exclusive, but sales numbers were also down on that as well. And I think that has something to do. The hardcore RPG fans, specifically those who are really into Japanese RPG and certain franchises, they kind of want their same formula just to be improved. They don't really want something that's too different from what they've already played. Like, I don't know about you, but when it comes to me, when I play Fire Emblem, I know that I just want this formula. I want something that's very similar to the last game, but maybe improved in certain differences. I do want that strategic element. I do want that difficulty that is there. I shouldn't have to go ahead and play hard mode to go ahead and try to get that same difficulty. And that's something that Fire Emblem is slowly straying away from. Unicorn Overlord, of course, like I mentioned earlier, is a game that I feel has that same difficulty, but I'm in normal mode and it feels very much Fire Emblem. If you were to go ahead and change Fire Emblem to an action RPG where there's some fighting involved, yeah, I don't know, not as a main entry. If you did like a side story or something like that, or some type of like side game, yeah, why not? I would test it out, see how Fire Emblem plays out as an action RPG. That's not really what I'm buying Fire Emblem for. I don't want an action RPG Fire Emblem. Honestly, if that were to come out, I probably would pass or wait on a sale. Who knows? I'm probably lying. I probably will pick it up day one because I love Fire Emblem. But for the most part, I just don't want anything like that. I had said earlier, or rather during the podcast, that if Final Fantasy VII had a remake in terms of the graphics of Ever Crisis, I'm not sure if you played the mobile game Ever Crisis, but if I can get those graphics in a full-on remake that's not a gacha game, I would have bought it day one and played through it, because I still like the turn-based mechanics. It's something that I really do like, something that I do enjoy about Dragon Quest because it stood to that formula. So yeah, action RPG would definitely not be the way to go, and I don't think that is the future of Fire Emblem. Now, we'll give 3 Houses some credit. There was some cool things with the battalion system, being able to go ahead and fight along, and it actually looked like a war was going on. Not just one person fighting another person. You have these like mini-sized armies there. That was pretty cool. I did like that, especially when you can zoom in and see everybody there. That was pretty neat. A nice touch, but definitely not a necessity. But to close out this video, Fire Emblem Engage, I think, is a nice step back to what we had previously, and honestly, I think Fire Emblem Engage was a good step back, and we need to continuously go in that direction. Now, there is rumor of a Fire Emblem remake, and I think that's going to be very crucial, and Nintendo will have eyes on those. I do think this Fire Emblem remake is real. We do know that Nintendo is pretty much the king of sitting on already done games and waiting for the right time to release it. The rumor back then was that this game was already done and it was actually supposed to come out before Engage, but because Engage was an anniversary title, they decided to go ahead and already release Engage, and they were waiting for the right time to release this. There are plenty of rumors saying that it is Genealogy of the Holy War, while others are speculating that it was Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. They just had an HD remake. And I think those are going to be very key, depending on what games they are, or rather if these two games do exist and it comes out this year, it might show if people really want to go back to old school Fire Emblem. Honestly, if Genealogy of the Holy War comes out and Fire Emblem fans don't pick it up, I would say it would be a sad day for Fire Emblem fans. This is kind of credited as one of the best Fire Emblem games. I personally never played it, but I do want to play it. It is available on Nintendo Switch Online for Japanese players, but unfortunately over here, it's not available, and we've never had an English translation, so that would be pretty awesome. If it's Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, some type of dual pack there, I highly recommend playing that game because those two are some of my favorite Fire Emblem games, and honestly, since Ike is very popular because of Smash Bros, I can see that game doing very well. But I do think those are key, crucial points in the Fire Emblem series that they will be looking at to see which direction to go. But there is also this to consider as well. Did they dumb down these games? Did they make it easier? I'm pretty sure they will add the casual mode where if you lose a member of your party, they can still be brought back, which I don't mind, right? If that's an option and you have the option to go ahead and do that, then it makes sense because there are some people that just want to play it casually. They don't want to have to go ahead and rewind battles or have to restart battles. Stuff like that, I don't mind. I also wouldn't mind if they had something where you can rewind your turns because to me, I think it's a nice quality of life. Again, you don't have to use that feature, but it is nice to have it there. Know that, oh, I made a mistake here. I can rewind one turn versus having to restart the whole battle. Adding things like that, I don't think is really that bad. What really would matter is how the maps are. Did they dumb down the maps? Are there very easy maps? Are there going to be no foggy maps, or there's not going to have any sand maps where your users go ahead and run slower? Are there going to be just one objective in terms of just route the enemy, or are you going to have all these different objectives there? Just specifically when it comes to Genealogy of the Holy War, the maps there are pretty huge. They're really giant. Are they going to make those maps a lot smaller and make the battles a lot shorter? We don't know. Again, this is just in the rumor phase, but I do feel that this is a key point in Fire Emblem that we need to keep an eye out on. Anyways, let me know what you think about all this Fire Emblem news. What do you think about Nintendo Life's opinion piece? Do you feel that that is the route, or rather that is the way it should go? Were you a fan of Three Houses over Engage or vice versa? Again, no hate to Nintendo Life. It is an opinion piece, and honestly, keep doing what you do, Nintendo Life. I really do like reading their stuff. They're really good people over there. I've never met them, but at least I do like the stuff in the articles that they write over there. They're very fun to watch as well on their YouTube channel, so definitely go ahead and subscribe to them as well on their YouTube channel because they always have some good videos out over there. As for me, I am an Engage fan, and I do want to see us go back to Fire Emblem, and especially with something like Unicorn Overload coming out. Yeah, I think I just want classic Fire Emblem to just come back full force. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Like I mentioned earlier, I am trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I am so close. So definitely every bit just does count, as well as share the channel. That helps out a lot. My name is James. Catch you guys next time.